Deadpool!
Hey, yeah, I wanna shoot, baby.
What a movie. I already watched Deadpool the other day because Star had just dropped on Disney Plus and I hadn't seen the movie in years, so I figured I'd check it out again. The movie was playing, and I was laughing, and birds were singing, and flowers were blooming. And I came to a realization. This movie doesn't get anywhere near the amount of respect it deserves. Sure, by today's standards it's a pretty run-of-the-mill meta-comedy with an alright superhero narrative framework to build jokes around, but that's just the thing. It's only that way by today's standards because every other meta-comedy since 2016 has taken from Deadpool in some way or another. It's basically created today's standards. Calling it out for being just another one of the endless haha you're watching a movie, isn't that funny flicks is like calling out early Beatles albums for being boring. Like, yeah, it's not their fault they were copied to no end. But seriously though, I mean seriously, can you think of another movie that's had more impact on the cultural landscape of the last decade than Deadpool? Really? Give it a think.
Shit. Did I leave the stove on?
There isn't one, and I'm not just talking about the movie industry either. Look at memes from 2015. They're disgusting. Remember when this shit was funny? Then look, 2016 hits, Deadpool comes out, and memes start changing. And now they're at the point of such pure irony and meta humor that shit like this can get a laugh out of you simply by existing. And you can trace it all back to Deadpool.
Have you seen this man?
But did you know that this movie, that whether you like it or not, was a true cultural moment that helped define so much of the humor us gamers find so funny almost never happened? What if, in some scarily possible version of events, Deadpool never came out, and it was all because of one man? Let me take you back. The year is 2008. Fox is just coming off the back of X-Men The Last Stand and they were riding high. Sure, the critics might not have loved it, but the box office loved it. They loved it $40 million more than the last one, which they loved $120 million more than the first one. Things were looking up for the X-Men franchise and all Fox had to do was ride that wave. The only problem was that they'd just ended the X-Men trilogy. Now they had to come up with a whole new idea to keep the franchise going. And then it came to them. An ingenious plan to keep the franchise alive. Origin movies. They do one for each character. Cyclops, Magneto, I don't know, this fucking kid probably. All of them. Everyone would get one. But first they had to start strong, really pounce out of the gate. And of course, the obvious choice was Wolverine. So they got to work. Writer David Benioff finished the first draft of the script in 2006, and in early July of 2007, Fox announced that Gavin Wood would helm the project, set for a 2008 release. After some delays due to weather and scheduling conflicts, the film was given its final release date of May 1st, 2009. And so the marketing began. And unsurprisingly, a huge player in the marketing push for this movie was Deadpool. Everyone was hyped to see what Deadpool had to offer. Sure, he wasn't exactly a household name yet, but in comic book circles he'd become a beloved character, and they couldn't wait to finally see him realised on the big screen. The studio announced Reynolds as the man who'd bring the Merc with a mouth to life, and he seemed like a pretty good choice. He'd been in comedies before, so he'd have the comedic chops for the role, and he'd even been in Blade Trinity, so even if that wasn't the most beloved superhero flick out there, the man had proven he would have the qualities needed for a great performance as Deadpool. But most importantly, he loved the character.
I got the call to play Deadpool. I knew they were going to put Deadpool in this movie. I heard about it and I was thinking they better damn well call me for this role, because I've wanted to play it my whole life. I read the comics and I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with the tone, the character, the world that he lives in, the idea that he knows he's in a comic book, the idea that he's hyper violent but also really funny at the same time. It's a very unusual product, so I was excited about it.
As the movie got closer and closer to release, they began talk of a Deadpool spin-off, with one of the producers having this to say when asked if the rumours of the Merc with a mouth possibly getting his own solo flick were true.
Yes and no. I mean, Deadpool is an integral part of X-Men Origins Wolverine. We're in the process now of doing all the CG work to create that character at a AAA plus level. It's a high-level endeavor because he figures importantly into the movie, so whether he'll spin off into his own movie, if that's what you're asking, I don't know the answer. We'll have to see.
But everyone knew it was going to happen. The hype was there, the character was being set up in not just any old movie, but a Wolverine movie that was not only guaranteed to be a box office smash, but also a guaranteed great movie. Fox hadn't done anything too awful yet, so why would they start now? A Deadpool movie was on the way for sure. All X-Men Origins had to do was succeed, and it would all fall into place. What could possibly go wrong? It was awful. Turns out, X-Men Origins Wolverine isn't that good, and the movie tanks, only just barely making its money back. In response, Fox does a complete 180 and decides no more origin movies, back to proper team-based X-Men movies. They scurried to save their brand, and there they would stay. First Class came out, and even if it wasn't a huge commercial success, it was an absolute banger of a movie, and thus the brand name was restored. Unfortunately for those who were excited about Deadpool, this change-up of the future of the franchise completely destroyed any plans for that solo flick ever happening, if there even were any plans to begin with. All hope was lost, and we were stuck with this assassinated corpse of a character for the foreseeable future. But Ryan didn't give up hope. He knew the potential of this character. He knew that if he was given the chance, he could make a damn good Deadpool movie. He just needed to convince the right people. But he couldn't do it alone. So he searched, hunting for the right man for the job, the only person who could help him get this movie made the way he knew it had to be. Enter Tim Miller. Tim Miller was mostly known for directing animated short films and being the co-founder of Blur Studio, a VFX and animation studio. The studio behind Go for Broke, the winner of the Best Animated Short Film Oscar in 2005, and now he wanted to direct Deadpool. You might think that a guy with a background in visual effects and animation was a bit of a strange choice to direct a live-action blockbuster, but we'll get back to that. Tim and Ryan got writers Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick to begin work on a script, and from there they began to pitch the movie to the higher-ups at Fox, who repeatedly shut them down. For some reason or other, they just wouldn't give them the green light to make the movie.
It was up to the point where the senior executives at Fox were looking at it. Tom Rothman just said,
No, we don't get it. Love your passion, but I just don't care for the script. I don't get it.
The higher-ups at Fox simply couldn't understand what people would find so interesting about Deadpool, but after years and years of begging, in 2011 they finally gave them some money and let them go make some test footage. They presented it to the Fox executives and hoped for the best. The best isn't what they got. The executives just wouldn't budge. They were told no, and back to begging they went.
I wrote an email once a month or so to the Fox executives saying, please tell me who I have to fuck to get this going. And the answer was,
It's not the right time. We appreciate your passion, though.
I wrote a lot of emails, and I'm sure I annoyed the shit out of them.
For years, Tim and Ryan were doing everything they could.
Pegging, Paul, it's a thing.
They wrote a script, they offered to change it.
At one point, I asked if a PG-13 would move the needle, and then they let me do a more sanitized version of the script.
Always the same response.
We don't get it.
Then, in 2014,
I had just gotten home from the train station from San Diego, and my phone blows up with Google alerts about Deadpool, and I see that the test had leaked. And I was horrified. I immediately wrote Fox an email and said, I swear on my daughter's life I didn't leak this test.
it was beautiful. Glorious 240p, full CG spectacle at its finest. Turns out someone at Fox had had enough and released the test footage that had just been sitting on the shelf at the studio for 3 years. We still don't know for sure who it is, but I mean, come on. Regardless, it was out there for the world to see, and the world loved it. But the love quickly turned to confusion. Why was this footage so old? Why was it made? Did this mean a Deadpool movie was actually happening? And who the hell is Tom?
Hi, Tom.
This is Tom Rothman, but you can call him Tom. Tom worked at 20th Century Fox for 18 years between 1994 and 2012, and he hated Deadpool. Okay, maybe hate isn't the right word. He didn't hate the character, but he just didn't understand him even a little bit, and he was notorious for that. Remember how in X-Men Origins Wolverine, they made the absolutely, inexplicably stupid decision to sew Wade Wilson's mouth shut? Yeah, you've got Tom to thank for that. But that didn't matter anymore. Tom was at Sony now, and however the test footage had gotten out, it had. And people were in love.
Within 24 hours of leaking it, we had a green light.
And they were off. But the struggle wasn't over there. Oh no, not even close. See, even after all the huge demand for a Deadpool flick after the leak, the studio, for some reason, even after Tom Rothman had left, still had barely any faith in the project. This meant that the budget was kept incredibly low at only $58 million. Now, $58 million is nothing to scoff at. I mean, if anyone out there has got $58 million to give me, my email can be found at the About page of my channel. But if you compare it to the absolutely insane budgets of all the Cape flicks before, around the time of, and after Deadpool, it's astonishing that they were able to do so much with this little money. But that's not to say it didn't majorly impact the production of the movie.
We had endless conversations about other X-Men. Taskmaster was in the script originally, too expensive. We had versions where we wanted Hugh Jackman in there, we wanted all kinds of cameos from different people, but it just becomes a big mess for the studio.
You know the sword fight at the end that's definitely not on top of a helicarrier? Yeah, originally that was meant to be a big bombastic shootout filled with effects, blood, and beauty. But the studio told them it would be too expensive, so you know what they did? They made it into a joke and kept on trucking.
Where's your duffel bag?
At the end of the day, that's the kind of attitude that got Deadpool made. The fight they had to bring every day just to get it off the ground, and the willingness to roll with the punches and keep pushing forward regardless.
We went through such hell determining the script and which X-Men we could keep and which we couldn't, and it just turned into a nightmare. The studio would say too expensive, too expensive, too expensive to everyone. So finally we were like, well, what about Negasonic Teenage Warhead? And they said, Negasonic Teenage what?
Two of the main characters of the movie are only there because Fox wouldn't give them money for the people they really wanted. How crazy is that? And even crazier still, they made it work. They made it work damn well. But once again, another problem. Colossus. How? Just how? He's a fully CGI character, and they've got less than $60 million to make him believable and tangible. And you know what? By some miracle that I'll never be able to understand, like even a little bit, they did it. They really did. When you realize that this looked like this, with 6 times the budget and came out a year later, it really puts things into perspective. But how did they pull this off? I'll tell you. The man, the myth, the legend, Tim Miller. Due to Miller's background in CG animation and visual effects, he knew how to make it work in a cost-effective, efficient, and most importantly, believable way.
He really squeezed $10 out of every dollar they gave us.
So the movie was finally being made, and made pretty damn well if I do say so myself. Surely that'd have to be the end of the story. Do you remember the marketing around Deadpool? Of course you do. That movie had the most unique marketing push of any movie ever? Yeah, let's go with ever. And I'm sure you've been able to figure this out by now, but they had pennies to do it. But you know what? No one at the studio cared. They just let them do whatever the hell they wanted. So they did. The amount of promos they made by having Ryan Reynolds just put on the suit and talk at the camera for like a minute is pretty hilarious. As with some of the posters. This. Look at this. This is really a billboard that a real studio really put out for a real movie because they really didn't care. Isn't that beautiful? The complete and utter apathy of the higher-ups behind it led to one of the most creatively and memorably marketed movies ever. And something about that, as shitty as it kinda is pretty cool. Finally, we've arrived. February 12, 2016. Deadpool, the movie years in the making with the blood, sweat and countless tears of so many creative people behind it, is finally about to be shown to the world. Fans everywhere have been begging for this movie since they were so horribly let down in 2009. And if they're let down again, not only will all this hard work have been for nothing, but every single studio exec who told them no for nearly a decade would be proven right. Everything was riding on this. All Tim, Ryan, or anyone else could do was wait and hope. 2 hours later, the results are in. Did everything pay off, or was it all for nothing? I think I'll let a review from the Times speak for itself.
Deadpool is the fast-paced, gory, action-packed, violent, and hilarious, incredibly off-color comic book movie that we needed, but had no idea we did until it came along. Deadpool puts maximum effort into creating one of the few comic book adaptations to perfectly capture its source material, and it succeeds on every level.
Ryan Reynolds and Tim Miller crafted an apathetic, raunchy masterpiece with our favourite Merc with a mouth. And you know what's fucking crazy? They took all of this. They took everything from Deadpool 1. And the madmen did it again. Only this time, they did it better. But if you want to see that story told, then you're going to need to head over to my good buddy Chimera Films. He's done exactly that. His video is going to be up there really soon, so you've got no good reason not to go give it a look. And who knows? Maybe you'll see me there. So that's the end of the video. Thank you guys so much for watching it. This one took a very long time, as I'm sure a lot of you have realized. I'm sorry I was gone for so long. A few things came up here and there during the process of making this, but it's here, it's out, and I really hope you enjoyed it. So thank you all for sticking around with the channel, waiting, giving me the time I needed. And of course, a very big thank you to Steve from Chimera Films, Christian from Production Journal, Troy from TroyBoy17, and Hassan from Hassan Hamid for lending their voices and really helping to bring this video to life. All their links can be found in the description. They all did an amazing job, and I cannot thank them enough for helping me out. There will not be a break this long in between videos, I can promise you that. We've got one coming out next month. I can't tell you very much about, but it is coming out. It's going to be really good. I'm very, very excited for you all to see it. And yeah, links for my Twitter, Patreon, and Letterboxd can be found in the description below. Don't forget to like if you liked it, share it with some friends if you think they might be interested. It'd be a great help in getting this video through the algorithm. And subscribe if you're interested in seeing what I have coming through the pipeline, because I've got a lot of really cool stuff coming. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.